Release the Kraken. And stop looking at my nipples. Hi, I'm Kit. This is me. I used to be thin, now I'm a whale, but that's not important right now. One day I woke up and we were all living in a zombie apocalypse. Not cool! So everyone stayed home and watched YouTube. Hooray! I watched for a while and liked what some people were doing so much that I decided to have a go too. I've always been a big film buff, and back when I was skinny and had hair, I used to make films with my friends. Some even had royal premieres. So although I don't make films anymore, I still like to talk about them, and that's what this channel is all about, at least for now. So, good people of the apocalypse, I'm Kit, and this is my world. Hello lovely people and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be discussing Clash of the Titans, the 1981 version, not the Liam Neeson remake. It was made in 1981 by director Desmond Davis and of course the legendary Ray Harryhausen. It was written by Beverly Cross, who came up with the idea first in the late 1970s and took it to the BBFC, that's the British Board of Film Classification, previously the British Board of Film Censors, to see if they would be willing to pass it with an A certificate, which was the equivalent back then of a PG certificate today. They had a look at the script and said, no, 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 too much nudity. There was a proposed full frontal nude scene with the actress playing Andromeda at the end of the film when she's chained up waiting to be eaten by the Kraken. The BBFC said no, we cannot allow that, she must be fully clothed. So Beverly Cross said okay then, and she was fully clothed. So the film was able to pass with an A certificate, even though there is some nudity still in the film. There's a scene, a breastfeeding scene early in the film, and there is also a nude bathing scene about halfway through, seen from the side and rear. And it still passed with an A, and that's okay by me. So, the film is one of the all-time best of the fantasy genre made in the pre-computer generated imagery age. It was made using what were already becoming clunky old-fashioned techniques, but still classic tried and tested techniques, pioneered by the likes of Willis O'Brien in King Kong, and later perfected by Ray Harryhausen on such films as Mighty Joe Young and Jason and the Argonauts. Harryhausen was a legend in every sense of the word. He pioneered the use of stop motion animation combined with live action human interaction. He called it dynamation, I believe, and it was a pretty effective technique for several decades and involved, in essence, a live action sequence being filmed to be used as a background, that then being projected onto a rear projection screen one frame at a time while the stop motion puppet was filmed in front of it, and then another screen placed in front of that for foreground live action to be projected onto, also at one frame per click. Click, click, click. Anyway, that was dynamation. Ray Harryhausen created it in his garage, and it was the foundation and basis for the majority of the work that he did leading up to and including Clash of the Titans in 1981, which was officially his final film. Although he did complete another film in 2002 called The Tortoise and the Hare, which he had actually started 50 years earlier in 1952, and for that reason it doesn't count as his last film. So that was essentially how Clash of the Titans came about. It stars Harry Hamlin as Perseus. I'm reading off my crib sheet because, as you know by now, I cannot remember names to save my life. So Harry Hamlin as Perseus, he was the American beefcake, kind of like Doug McClure but prettier. Judy Bowker as Andromeda. She was lovely, or at least she was by 1981 standards. Now, Burgess Meredith played Ammon, the sort of grandfatherly thespian who takes Perseus under his wing. He was originally supposed to be played by John Gielgud, Sir John Gielgud to you and me, but MGM, who were financing the film, said no, we would like an American in this role, and the producers were happy to oblige because prior to taking the film to MGM they had gone to Orion Pictures, and Orion had said, sure, we'll finance your film, but we want Arnold Schwarzenegger to star as Perseus. Arnold Schwarzenegger. The producers quite wisely rejected that suggestion because there's too much dialogue involved. So they went to MGM, and MGM were happy to finance it on the condition that American Burgess Meredith played Ammon. So they accepted those terms, and Meredith did a very good job. I had previously known him only as the Penguin in the 1960s Batman television series. The various Greek gods were very intelligently cast using the best of British Shakespearean talent at the time. These were the likes of Maggie Smith, Sian Phillips, Claire Bloom, Susan Fleetwood, and of course Laurence Olivier, Sir Laurence Olivier, later Lord Laurence Olivier, one of the finest actors and British thespians who ever trod the boards. And it was good casting. It was impressive casting. It made for a good poster. People went to see this film due to the cast. And the reason that Desmond Davis was picked as the director for the film was because he had directed a lot of RSC productions and he was very familiar with directing British lovies. So that was a wise choice as well, because he did a very good job with Clash of the Titans. One interesting fact about this film that not a lot of people pay enough attention to, in my opinion, is the fact that one of the characters, Calibos, played by Neil McCarthy, is actually performed by 3 different techniques. Neil McCarthy as the face and, from the chest up, I would say, performing all the facial expressions and of course the dialogue. And then there is a full body puppet, stop motion puppet animated by Ray Harryhausen, and there is also a cell animated cartoon silhouette which is used very briefly just for the scene where Calibos transforms from human shape into the shape of a monster. And so all in all there are 3 different techniques used to create the character of Calibos, and it works extremely well even today. The prosthetics on Neil McCarthy are very, very good. They're of a high standard, similar sort of standard to the prosthetics that Tim Curry used many years later in Legend, and used to great effect, and it matches so well with the full body model that very few people would even be bothered by it, even though of course you can see that the stop motion puppet is a puppet and not a person. But Neil McCarthy did a wonderful job creating the top half of the character, and Ray Harryhausen did a wonderful job creating the rest of the character. Also, I should mention Flora Robson, Frida Jackson and Anna Manahan, who did little cameos as the Stygian witches. They also had fabulous prosthetics, and a very amusing scene where they're chasing around after their one solitary eye. One of the aspects of Clash of the Titans that I most appreciate is the story-driven narrative. It's not just about action set pieces, although there are plenty of those in the film. It has a strong narrative arc drawn from Greek mythology, and although it's a fairly simple story, the story drives the action rather than the action being an excuse for more action. It's not just about people sending fireballs shooting from magic staffs or lightning crackling from their fingertips. It's about human people with human frailties trying to survive and get along in a world full of mythological creatures and evil. And they do a pretty good job. Now, speaking of the mythological creatures, it would be remiss of me not to mention some of my favourites, the main one being Pegasus. Pegasus the winged horse, one of the most beautiful, elegant and soulful of Harryhausen's creations. Beautifully animated and fabulous, very adorable character. Anyway, that's enough about that. Let's talk about Bubo. Bubo the mechanical owl, made for Perseus by the gods, and my goodness, this is another of my favourite characters. I recently read that Harryhausen had been accused of cribbing the character of Bubo from R2-D2 because, of course, Star Wars had come out a few years prior to Clash of the Titans. I don't believe this. Harryhausen vehemently denied it. If I think about it enough and stretch my brain in the right sort of way, I can see how Bubo has similarities to R2-D2, particularly in the sound effects. However, I believe Harryhausen when he says that he created Bubo before he'd even seen Star Wars, and I think the similarities are superficial at best. Bubo is a character in his own right. Let's face it, he's existed in Greek mythology for a long time before Star Wars existed, and he's a beautiful character, he's a beautiful model. Again, fabulous animation, and the character is filled with humour and life and all of the things that you would expect to only exist in a real, live, breathing thing, not an animated puppet. This is something that CGI still hasn't achieved, the imbuing of life into a creature. Gollum came pretty damn close, but I haven't really seen any other CG characters with as much soul as the ones created by Harryhausen, with the exception of the characters in Toy Story. Those CG characters can make me cry, and I genuinely believe that they have a soul. It's a tough thing to quantify. It's very hard to know when it works and when it doesn't work and why, but that's the way it goes with that. So that's Pegasus, Bubo, Medusa. Now, I need to say something about Medusa which will probably be irritating to a lot of people, and I can only apologise. I have actually met the real Medusa. No, I'm not saying that there is an actual mythological creature hiding in the world. I met the puppet. I had the extreme honour and privilege of meeting and working with Ray Harryhausen briefly, quite a long time ago when I was working at the Museum of the Moving Image on London's South Bank. Sadly, it's no longer there. But Harryhausen came to the museum while I was working there to do a series of lectures, and he brought along a large array of his puppets and props from the various films that he's worked on over the years, including Medusa, including the Kraken and the two-headed dog, the skeletons from the skeletons from Jason and the Argonauts, he brought along a lot of puppets, and I helped him set them up, and I was given the opportunity to animate a few of them, and I also helped him set up his various film clips that he was using as part of his lecture. It was one of the most exciting and thrilling experiences of my life, getting to actually meet the legendary Ray Harryhausen, and possibly more exciting than that was getting to operate and control the real Medusa from the film, who I'd been watching on the screen since my youngest childhood days. There she was in the flesh, so to speak. She was anatomically correct, more than you can see in the film. I had a look, I don't mind admitting it. She has a nice rack. So I met Medusa, I met the Kraken as well. Now the Kraken is one of the few Harryhausen creations that I wasn't that impressed with in the film, and that's largely because the matting wasn't very good. He didn't integrate very well into the live action scenes. It's all very grainy, and the colour matching isn't very good, and overall it's one of the less impressive effects in a Harryhausen film. However, I still love the story, and the rest of the film still carries its own weight very well, so I forgive it that one transgression. I cannot discuss Clash of the Titans without mentioning the music by the incomparable composer Lawrence Rosenthal. He's not the best known, but his music in Clash of the Titans could easily have been written by the likes of John Williams, Howard Shore, Hans Zimmer, James Horner, John Barry. The list goes on. It's very, very good orchestral symphonic music. If you hear synthesized pop beats, you know your film was made in the 80s. It dates it. Clash of the Titans is timeless because the music is timeless, even though the effects are now slightly dated. However, I'm lucky enough to come from a generation of people who grew up watching old films before CGI was even invented, so I'm able to fully enjoy and appreciate the best that CGI has to offer, but I'm able to enjoy the old stuff too, and I don't think young modern audiences are able to in quite the same way. So my generation's lucky because we tread the divide between the old school movie making and modern movie making, and that's a good place to be. All that's left is to say thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I apologise if the editing is a little bit choppy. It's because this has been filmed over about 3 days because my cameras kept shutting down, so I apologise for any continuity issues that may have arisen from the fact that I'm kind of cheating. That being said, I will continue to make these videos to the best of my abilities. I'm still quite new at this sort of thing, but I will hopefully get better as I progress. If you want me to keep doing that, you can certainly help me by clicking like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and leave a nice comment, please. I'm certainly open to any suggestions. I would prefer not to get any abuse, but it's the internet, so what can you do? But certainly please like, subscribe, notify and comment, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much. See you later.